Hey guys, welcome to the Nightmare Podcast. Extreme Rules went off the air a few moments ago. First off, I did upload my predictions for the show. For whatever reason, I was just having a hard time getting it uploaded to YouTube. I recorded it, I believe, on Monday night, and I don't know. And of course, the day of, that's when it finally goes up. So I didn't have it up there. Hopefully, you got to hear some of it. Some of my predictions were correct, some were incorrect, but that's how it goes. Um, like I said before, this was an event that I don't think needs its own pay per view. This is stuff that you can do on Raw and SmackDown. I will admit I was not 100% engaged. You know that I'm a baseball fan, so I was watching the playoff games. I had this playing on my tablet. Extreme Rules was playing on my tablet. I had the end of the Toronto and Mariners game up because that was unexpected. The Mariners were down 8-1 and they win 10-9. So, and right now I still have the Mets and the Padres on right now on ESPN. Mets were winning, then they were losing, then it was tied, and now they have a 7-2 lead, top of the eighth right now. So it looks like we're going to get at least one game three out of this wild card series because the Guardians wrapped up their two games. The Mariners swept the Blue Jays at home, and now it also looks like the Phillies are going to sweep St. Louis because they're leading 2-0 in the bottom of the eighth. So this was a little bit more important to me than Extreme Rules. But like I said, I had it on my tablet. I was somewhat engaged enough to kind of get a feel of at least if the crowd was liking something or not, or enough to give my critique and everything like that. But let's start with the obvious: the return of Bray Wyatt. And I got to say that I thought they weren't going to do this. The way they were about to go off the air with Riddle and Daniel, by the entrance, I'm like, maybe they're not going to do the Bray Wyatt return. They're going to try to stretch this thing out. But he came back. I thought it was a pretty good way to come back. That was pretty cool. They had all his characters from the Funhouse. I guess in adult form, I guess you would have put it that way, or human form. I don't know exactly how to put it, but they were puppet sized. Um, but the question is, what kind of Bray Wyatt is this? Like, what's the character? I mean, is this like the Undertaker, where when the Undertaker came back after being buried alive at Survivor Series, and he came back at WrestleMania 20, it was all the versions of the Undertaker rolled into one. He still kept some of the attributes of the American Badass. He still had it from his old days as the Lord of Darkness. Everything was rolled into one. Is this what we're getting with Bray Wyatt? Because Bray came with the lantern, and that was, cult leader Bray when he was with the Wyatt family. He only had the lantern when he came out as the Fiend, but in his, I guess I'll say human form, he didn't have that anymore. So is the Fiend, is that portion of him done now? Um, it looks like the happy Bray from the Funhouse is gone. So it's going to be interesting on what they're going to do with it. He did the "I'm here." He blew it out. So what's going to happen with this? What character are we getting? I was really hoping that I hope they keep the feed going because I don't think we got to see the whole thing. And as I've said before, Triple H is gonna let Bray Wyatt drive this bus. If he feels he's going too far off the deep end with something, I'm sure Triple H will pull him back some. But for the most part, it is fair to say he has 100% creative control. That is probably what was part of the conversation for him to come back. That, listen, this has gotten fucked up too much because of Vince. This has to be my baby, and Triple H's gonna understand that. I mean, he nurtured him down in NXT. And that's one of the reasons why Triple H's NXT was so successful. It's because he let the guys and girls be themselves. He let them go with their vision and just tweet and gave guidance where necessary, rather than steamroll them and take control. That's why these guys were so successful down in NXT. and there's no reason to believe that Triple H is going to interfere. So I'm very excited to see where this new White Rabbit Bray Wyatt character goes. If we still get some elements of the Fiend, do we get elements of Happy Bray as well? It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if he's going to be featured on Raw. Who knows? But pretty much that's what you were really watching this for. You maybe a little bit you're watching it for the fight pit, but for the most part, everybody was watching this to see Bray come back and which Bray Wyatt was coming back, what version of Bray were we gonna get? And I guess you could say I don't know. As far as the rest of the event, the fight pit match, I said Seth was gonna go. I thought I was probably gonna be wrong on that, which I was. Riddle won. It made sense for Riddle win. That was like his environment. And as I said, as Seth loses, it doesn't hurt him. But I don't know. I mean, I may have dozed off maybe 2 minutes over. I know I did close my eyes for a few minutes, watching a baseball game laying on the couch. But the match didn't excite me. It was one of the ones I was interested in seeing. It was okay to me. Um, do I think that their rivalry is over? Probably. I could be wrong. I was trying to figure out when they bring Bray Wyatt back, who is he going to work with? As I said before, everybody's sort of busy. But if this was supposed to be the end of the feud between Seth and Riddle, I guess you could put Bray with Riddle, but why? I'm sure he'll find a reason because it looks like Seth is rolling into Bobby Lashley. And I won't be surprised. I would not be surprised if Seth wins the United States Championship because, you know, there is a bit of a formula there that, Seth, air quotes, lost a big match. He'll make it up by winning a championship the following night. So I'm not going to say it's out of the realm for him to be the United States champion come Monday night. But the match was what it was. I would probably say this match shouldn't have main evented the night. I really thought it was going to be the women, the ladder match that was going to main event the show, that was going to close out the show, but they decided to go with the fight pit match. I'm not gonna say it was disappointing. It just lacked the energy to me, and I thought the crowd wasn't as hot as they could have been. The match, one of the matches I was correct about was the I Quit match. I think that's probably where my eyes started getting heavy. I started to doze off because there was nothing exciting about this match. Um, it played out the way I said it was going to in my predictions match. Prediction episode where the only way you were going to get Edge to quit was Beth Phoenix getting involved and you putting her in a position to force Edge to say, I quit. And that's exactly what happened. There was a lot of, mishmash going on to get there. I think they could have got there a lot quicker. But, I guess they wanted to have a reason of getting Beth involved. I mean, we know already that in these big matches, Beth is always there. So I don't think it would have been too crazy or out of the realm if you just showed go on the Titantron, show them in the back holding Beth. Or, Rhea just running into the crowd and attacking Beth. We all know that she was going to be there. But they took the long road to get to that ending, which is fine. And, it was what it was. But a little bit of revenge on Dominic. We finally saw some physicality between the two of them. Well, shouldn't say between because Ray really didn't fight back. It was more of Don hitting him. Like I said in my prediction episode, the point of, I think, Dom joining the Judgment Day was one, for him to be a heel. Two, for him, to grow some more outside the guidance of his father, although we know his father is still involved, but at least on TV, to be outside of that. But also the end game is to get these two in the ring. At some point, you're going to get Rey Mysterio versus Dom Mysterio, but there has to be a reason why. Is Dom going to challenge his father? And if Dom does that, what is the reason for Rey to say yes? You would think Rey's going to say no. And my thing was, if you didn't hear it in the prediction, was they have to get Ray's wife and daughter involved, where Rhea attacks them, and that pisses Ray off enough to say, "You wanted to fight, now you got it." Could Ray challenge Dom and say, "The only way for me to save you is to have the match"? Yeah, he could, but I think the other way is more exciting to get there. So that's that on that. But the match itself with Edge and Finn Balor, their first time meeting, to me it was a bit of a snoozer. It was a little bit boring to me, and I think, like I said, I think that's where I first like dozed off and my eyes started getting heavy. The ladder match with Bianca Belair and Bailey, I was correct on that. I had Bianca winning, and again, if you listen to my early one, which you probably didn't get a chance to because I put up so late, was if you notice the formula or the pattern that these guys use, guys meaning WWE, is that, for example, Bailey left Bianca laying. She had the upper hand in the go home Raw. Usually, the person who has the upper hand on the go home Raw usually loses at the event. And in this case, they followed that formula, and Belair won the match. They're definitely going to meet again. There's definitely going to be another title match between the two of them. How she does that, I don't know. How do we get there? I don't know. They might meet at Crown Jewel. I think from this we get into the prep for the War Games. The stupid Crown Jewel is, I think it's on the 5th of next month. You know, like I said, that is such an irrelevant event. Could they do a title change there? I'm not saying it's out of the realm if they have a match, but I think what we're going to see is Bianca Belair going into Survivor Series. Like I said with the War Games, I think there's going to be a men and a females uh, um, War Game, and I think Bianca is going to be the champion into that. I'm really being early in this prediction, but depending on how this goes, if I am correct that there's not going to be another championship match for Bailey until after Survivor Series, my guess is going to be they'll either wrestle at day one, because I have to look back at what the December pay per view. I'm not sure if it's a December pay per view, premium live event rather. If after Survivor Series the match is either going to be at day one, or I think Bailey's going to win the women's Royal Rumble. So got to see how that plays out. But again, the match wasn't overly exciting to me, but I still thought it was a good match. The match that I really thought was the shits was Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey. Now, I was wrong on that one. I did say Ronda was probably going to win, but I really thought that they were going to have Liv go over because I thought this was their out for Liv to beat Ronda Rousey. I'm not understanding the ending of this. You know, Corey Graves had said it. Why was Liv smiling? Now, according to the rules, you had to win either by pinfall or submission. She got, choked out. So she's smiling because she really didn't lose. Is she going to talk to Adam Pearce? Where are we going with this? To me, the crowd was just completely flat on this. I don't think the crowd gave a damn who won the match, to tell you the truth. I believe this match was after the Donnie Brook or whatever the hell that match was called with Sheamus and Imperium, and the crowd was hot for that. And maybe that match took a lot of energy out, and it was just a bad placement for them to follow them for this match. But I just thought the match sucked. I thought they should have even been, in the match period. But you got Ronda Rousey. Sort of ironic that they're showing a Charlotte Flair. Are we going to get a Charlotte Flair versus um, a Ronda Rousey at some point? That is possible. I remember reading a while back, maybe, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, that the plan with Ronda Rousey was that one year they wanted to do a championship match, Ronda versus Charlotte, and then the following year, Ronda versus Becky one on one. Well, we got the Ronda and we got the Charlotte at WrestleMania this year. if they're following that, then you would assume we're going to have Becky versus Ronda at next year's WrestleMania. I don't know who's next in line for Ronda. Maybe it is going to be Charlotte again. I don't know. But I just feel that the Liv Morgan experiment was a failure. And I don't blame Triple H for that. I think it started bad with Vince. And I think maybe Triple H thought, well, since we started her this way, it's kind of hard to pivot. I don't know. But I just thought it was just terrible. Um, in the backstage clip, it looks like we're getting LA Knight back. You know, that maximum male model thing was really stupid. That is probably the last fingerprints of Vince McMahon. So if Triple H completely eliminates that, I think you've pretty much erased the creative vision of Vince McMahon for now. Because I believe that was the last thing he created. And as you can see, Triple H brought back all excuse me, brought back all the people that he and Nick Khan got rid of. I think the one last person, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last person would be Nia Jax, who has to come back. You know, the biggest out of that was Bray Wyatt. Then you had Braun Strowman, you had Karrion Cross. Now, some of the NXT guys that came back, like Johnny Gargano, they technically weren't let go. They just decided not to come back because they knew with Vince, I don't know. Not to mention, there's not a very good pattern of the NXT call ups having the best luck on the main roster under Vince McMahon. So looks like we're getting the old LA Knight back, which is great. Hopefully that maximum male model stuff will be gone as well because it's just stupid. And then the last match for me to really comment on was the 6 man with Imperium and the Brawling Brutes. Now, I in the prediction was sort of shitting on this, but it was actually pretty fucking cool. I thought it went on a little too long. Now I had Imperium going over, but when I saw the match with Sheamus and Gunther on SmackDown, and Sheamus got robbed, I knew right then and there, Brawl and Brutes were gonna win. After I saw that, but I had already recorded my show already. Um, like I said, I thought it just went on a little bit too long, but it wasn't. It was a good match. The crowd was hot for it, and they have done. Triple H has done a great job turning Sheamus babyface. Because remember, a few weeks ago when Sheamus was doing his promo, he was trying to get the crowd behind him, banger after banger after banger, and the crowd just kind of left him hanging. I mean, all the crowds since their match at Clash at the Castle, the crowds have been hot behind Sheamus. And I don't remember, I mean, Sheamus has been a babyface before, but I don't remember the crowd ever being like this hot behind him. And one is just the respect of, he's been having some good matches lately. And also, he's been around for a long time, but, hats off. I mean, I'm like, this is going to be so stupid. I'm like, oh, they're opening the show with this. But the only downside to the match was that it sucked the air out for the following match because I think the crowd was just exhausted from the first match because it was so good. It really was. Like I said, I just thought they just went on a little bit too long. Same thing with Finn Balor and Edge. I thought the match was just too. There's like a point where it's just like, okay, can it just be over now? And I think that's where people were with Finn Balor and Edge. And I even felt the crowd got a little bit like that during the first match. That it's like, oh, it's not over. I mean, just for a moment, I kind of felt they were like just a little exhausted because it's like, okay, we can't take it anymore. Like, just end it. But I would say really the best match out of the night, which is a surprise, the best match out of the night was that match. Oh yeah, then the other match was the strap match, which to me was the shits. I don't think it really did anything for anybody. I mean, yes, I predicted Carey would go over. He had to go over. You had to keep him strong, but to me, it just wasn't an exciting match. It just wasn't good to me. There was just a lot of shitty matches on this card. This wasn't a strong card, and I mentioned that in my early predictions. That this is the first time that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this was the first time that nobody from the bloodline was on the card. Because usually, if Roman's not on it, you have the Usos on there, and if the Usos are on there, um, if the Usos are on there, fine, they're on there by themselves, or maybe Roman is doing a match. But I think this is the first time that neither one of them was on the show, and it was just a weak card. And I think really this event was more about building up to Bray Wyatt coming back because that's what you were holding out for. You were holding out for Bray to come back. You didn't know he was going to come back at the end. You know he was going to come back and interfere in a match or something like that. Like you didn't know what he was going to do. But that's why you really watched this. You didn't give a shit about Ronda and Liv Morgan. You probably had a little bit of excitement for the ladder match, but you didn't care about the Donnybrook match. You didn't care about the fight pit match to a certain level. You may have had interest, but it wasn't the sole reason you were going to watch this. I don't really think there was a sole reason to watch it for the matches. It was just to have Bray come back. And I did see something on Twitter saying, if Triple H, if you fail to bring Bray Wyatt back or Bray doesn't come back, it's going to be a big disappointment, which I would agree with. So it was what it was. The next thing coming up is the Crown Jewel match. So you got to see a lot of that, a lot of advertising for that, a lot of hype for Logan Paul and Roman Reigns for this match. You already know who's winning this match, okay? And I'm also have my eyes on the ending of the Met Padres game. It is top of the ninth. Padres have a man on first and third, 2 outs. It looks like we're going to get a game three. It's probably going to be the only game three because it looks like the Phillies are going to wrap this up. They're in the top of the ninth right now in St. Louis. One man on, 1 out. So will Pujols end it in a sweep at home? We'll see. But it's all about Crown Jewel right now. For me, I'm looking at Survivor Series. I'll still do a predictions match on the Crown Jewel thing, but that's pretty much what they're going to be talking about right now. And it was funny on SmackDown. I, when they were doing the promo, and WWE is trying so hard to get the crowd to cheer Paul London or Logan. I'm sorry, Paul. Jesus, Logan Paul, and all you hear is Logan sucks. Logan sucks, and Roman is just like, "Hey man, they did the same thing to me a few years ago. Now I'm a legend. Now I'm the man," and the crowd went crazy. But it was so true that Vince was shoving him down our throats that we were just booing the hell out of him. You couldn't freaking stand him. But that's what I mean, though. When Vince started to let Roman be Roman, look what happened. And you just think back to some of the guys and girls who were no longer there, who wanted to be themselves, but Vince wouldn't let them. And they just fizzled out. But look at Roman now. You love him. And they've been doing it in a way that he's not stale and you're not tired of him yet. I like the little dissension that they're doing in the bloodline right now, but I I do and I don't. I think you should do it more as you're leading into WrestleMania because I think once Roman does finally lose the titles, there's no need for the bloodline anymore. So how do you break up the bloodline? How does the bloodline go their separate ways? So I do like the dissension right now, but I think ultimately what you're going to see is that family's going to bind together, and Sammy's going to be the one who's going to be kicked out. And then going into WrestleMania, it's going to be truly the bloodline. It will just be the Usos, Sakai, and Roman. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say now that the match for Sami Zayn at WrestleMania is probably going to be him versus Sequoia because in a way they're sort of tight, and I think you'll see that match because he will be kicked out. But I believe that is the only match that is announced right now for Crown Jewel is that match with Paul and Roman. I think that's it for now. You're gonna get a women's match, and that's why I said you might get a return match for the Raw Women's title and then go into War Games. But I think the way it's gonna go is that if they're play, I think Bailey should be the one to take the title from Bianca Belair. Right now, she is the most viable contender to do that. And if you're not going to do a return match at Crown Jewel, you're not going to do a one-on-one match at Survivor Series. I think you will do it at day one, or Bailey's going to win the Royal Rumble. I'm sure they'll have a match with Ronda. She was at the last event at Crown Jewel. I'm sure Gunther's going to be there. I can't predict I have no idea where they're going to go with this. And I even wonder, I'm curious of what is Triple H's feeling, and like, does he even want to put a card together and drag everybody over there? Because this is going to be the first time he's in charge while they go over there. Vince is not going. So, hopefully you enjoyed Extreme Rules. It's nice that Bray is back. A lot, like I said, it's a lot of interesting things. It's a very, very exciting time with WWE right now, which is bad for AEW. And I'm gonna do an AEW episode right after this because their backstage morale, there's all the crap that's going on right now in AEW is just ridiculous. And I'm gonna do an episode on that right after this. But it's an exciting time with WWE. Just the return of everybody and what you're gonna do with this. And while you're bringing back the guys who probably shouldn't have been let go in the first place, you're infusing them with some of the NXT guys. I mean, look at the new guys who just debuted on SmackDown with Selena Vega. They should feel, I don't know if blessed is the right word, but fortunate, that's the word. Fortunate that this is under the guise of Triple H, not Vince. Because you know what? Vince would probably break them up 3 months from now. Knowing Vince. And the other thing that I noticed on SmackDown is when the Bloodline came out, that there were so many people with him. It was just it looked crowded. Vince wouldn't like that. Umaga, when they were doing the Bobby Lashley, the Battle of the Billionaires, you had Vince, Shane, and Armando Alejandro Estrada. And remember, Estrada disappeared because Vince felt there was too many people at ringside with Umaga. But that was the pair, And he did it before somebody else is not coming to mind right now, where he just felt there was too many people coming. And that's why I'm saying Vince didn't know how to let a lot of things breathe, But now with these new guys, Phantasma, I believe, with Selena Vega, it's gonna breathe. You're gonna get your opportunities. They're gonna get the right treatment. They're gonna get that. And as I'm about to sign off with this, the Mets are in trouble. Ottavino is pitching. It's top of the ninth. Now the Padres have the bases loaded. They brought a run in at 7-3. So if somebody hits a grand slam, it's going to be a tied game. And this Ottavino, he used to pitch for the Yankees, and he sucked. And he still freaking sucks. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. There is this 1 out away from the Phillies taking it and advancing on. I mean, it is really surprising that, I'm only going to get one game 3 here in my baseball weekend. But it's a good one. It's the New York Mets. I'm living in New York. I'm not a Met fan, but at least I have something else to watch tomorrow besides football. But anyway, that's the episode for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about Extreme Rules. Leave it in the comments. And we will see what we're going to get at Crown Jewel. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.